Hello, here's some more Horse Crazy. We're reading Racing the Tide, and I had to stop suddenly on this picture because I realised I was nearly at my 10 minutes. So we'll go on from there. Bonnie and Sam kept tally of how many sheep each shearer saw in a dog-eared book. Smarty Pants loved being a sheepdog, barking and diving in now and then to nip. In the shed, all the collies wore muzzles so they couldn't bite, but they barked like banshees. If they had to get somewhere in a hurry, they ran across the sheep's back like tightrope walkers. When they stopped for morning tea on the first morning, Sam was exhausted, but that was only the beginning. She and Bonnie did all sorts of jobs. They helped pile the wool into the bale press, gave Woody a hand with the cooking, pushed the sheep into the pens, passed via the drenching gun and marking paint, and finally drove the shorn sheep back to their paddocks. At the end of the second day, they sat on the steps of the grand old shed and waved goodbye to the shearers. "Well done, girls." Vi put her arms around Bonnie and Sam. "You've been a wonderful help. We couldn't have done it without you." That night, all four of them fell asleep at the dinner table. This chapter is called Overnight Adventure. Bonnie and Sam slept in until late the next morning. In the kitchen, Vi had put everything they needed for their stay at the shepherd's hut into extra saddlebags. "I won't tell you what food I've packed," she said. "That way it will be a surprise for you. The old stove works well, but make sure there are no birds' nests in the chimney before you light it." She held up a mobile phone, "And I'm putting this in too, just in case you need to call us." They had a big shearer's breakfast of eggs and bacon, added sleeping bags and clothes to the bags, then saddled the horses and set off. The rain clouds had passed and it was a beautiful summer's day with hardly a breath of wind. When they got to the hut, they checked that the bush paddock was safe and secure for the horses. Then they settled in. Sam found an old broom and swept the floor. Bonnie turned the mattresses over to make sure there was nothing creepy underneath, then laid their sleeping bags out. Their food fitted onto the shelves above the table, and there were driftwood pegs to hang their clothes on. They collected wood for the stove and put their torches on the table ready for dark. Then they flopped on the beds and enjoyed the feeling of having their own house. There they are, getting the old hut ready. "I feel like a swim," said Bonnie. Sam jumped up. "Good idea. Let's take the horses bareback and try again with Tex." The sea was like a big turquoise pond, and there were no waves in the bay between the hut and Skull Rock. Blondie walked straight into the deep water until she was swimming. Sam held her mane and floated beside her, then lay on her back again as they came to shore. "Have a go on Blondie," she called to Bonnie. "She loves it." Tex still wouldn't go in the water. They stood the horses side by side and crawled across to swap. "It's a mid-air horse transfer," Sam said. Bonnie cantered Blondie back into the sea, then practised her trick riding skills, standing on Blondie's back, then diving off with a somersault. Sam tried various ways to get Tex into the water, bossing him, tricking him and begging him. Pants even started barking at him, but nothing worked. "You are an old stupid, Tex," she said, exasperated. "If you tried, you'd love it." Vi's surprise dinner was sausages that Bonnie and Sam cooked on the old stove, then rolled up in white bread with tomato sauce. "Mum and Dad would freak out if they knew we had a fire," said Bonnie. There's Bon doing her tricks on Blondie in the sea. "Yes, I think Vi's used to big kids," said Sam. She peeped in the firebox. "We'll just make sure it's out before we go to bed." Afterwards they made hot chocolate with powdered milk and dipped their biscuits in it. They cleaned their teeth and spat off the edge of the veranda, then climbed into their sleeping bags. By torchlight, Sam read aloud a story from an old school reader that Vi had put in their saddlebag. It was about a girl and a boy who swam their horses out to rescue some people from a shipwreck more than 100 years ago. Before Sam finished, both Pants and Bonnie were snoring, so she turned off the torch and fell asleep too. There they are, spitting off the veranda. Ghosts. Bonnie sat up, her heart pounding. Something had woken her. Pants was sitting up on Sam's bed, hackles up, growling. "Sam!" Something thumped the outside of the hut. "Sam!" Bonnie shook her sleeping friend. "Wake up, Sam, there's something outside." When the girls peered out the back window, they screamed together. There was something there. Pants barked sharply. "What is it, Sam?" Bonnie's teeth were chattering. "It looks like two ghosts." Sam peeped out the window again, then leaned forward staring. She started to laugh. "What is it, Sam? Why are you laughing?" Bonnie grabbed at Sam's legs. "It's Blondie and Tex," said Sam. "I guess they're sheltering from the wind. They do look like ghosts." When Bonnie looked into the dark, she laughed too. The horses were standing, heads down, with their rumps towards the hut. They looked like ghosts with no heads. Bonnie was relieved to have been frightened by something so harmless. Maybe they're the headless horsemen of Shepherd's Hut. The sound of the sea that had seemed sinister when she was afraid now soothed her. The two girls and their dog drifted into sleep. In the morning, Bonnie woke up with a feeling that she had forgotten something. Something kept niggling at her mind. They had breakfast in bed, bananas, muesli, sultanas and milk in plastic bowls. And then, as she sat there staring at the door, it suddenly came to her. She thought hard in case it was her imagination, but now she could definitely remember. There they are, looking at the horses in the moonlight. Somebody opened the door last night. What? Sam choked on her muesli. That's what woke me. I can remember now. The door opened and a torch shone in the hut. Are you sure you weren't dreaming, Bon? Sam asked her friend. No. I heard footsteps going off the veranda too. Maybe I couldn't remember last night because it would have been too scary. You must have been dreaming, Sam insisted. Pans whined politely at the door and Bonnie got up to let her out. Oh, she gasped, looking out, then reached down to the floor for something and showed it to Sam. This isn't a dream, she said. This is a torch and a rope. Sam dialed her home number and waited anxiously while the phone rang. The Shepherd's Hut suddenly felt a long way from anywhere and she was glad they had Vi's mobile. Hi, Dad, it's me, Sam, she said, surprised that tears welled in her eyes at the sound of his voice. When she explained what had happened, Bill said they should pack up and ride back to Banksia Ridge. Just to be on the safe side, he said, there's probably a rational explanation and whoever it was will be long gone, but I'd feel better if I knew you were out of there. I'll ring Woody and Vi and let them know you'll be back for lunch. Maybe when I come to pick up your bags tomorrow, we'll have a look around. There the girls are having brekkie and there's the torch and the rope. It was outside the hut. They rolled up their sleeping bags and swept the floor again. The good thing about a tiny house like this is that there's hardly any housework, said Bonnie, taking one last look. Yep, said Sam. It's a lovely hut. I wish the night visitor hadn't spoiled it for us. She twisted the latch on the door, making sure it was shut properly. Let's go and catch the horses. There's a lovely picture of the sea and the bush with the hut in it. More evidence. Bonnie and Sam walked through the bush at the back of the paddock, calling for the horses. The sky was cloudy again and tiny finches flitted through the trees. When they found the horses, they used a stump to get on. Don't you love riding bareback? Asked Bonnie. Yes, Sam agreed, especially when the horses have their smooth summer coats. The road towards the hut, following the fence, the horses suddenly propped, staring. What's that? Sam peered through the trees. It's a car, a four-wheel drive with a boat trailer, Bonnie whispered quietly. The horses stood quietly while the girls looked at the car. Nothing moved. Let's go a bit closer, said Bonnie, but be ready to skedaddle if there's anybody there. They rode right up to the fence and peered over it. There's nobody there. Bonnie felt uneasy. They must be out in a boat, I guess, but why would they be here? They are going to catch the horses. It must be the abalone poachers, Sam, said Bonnie. Try to remember the number plate and we'll phone your dad. I'll scratch it on my reins with a stick, Sam said, breaking off a small branch. Bonnie read out the number for her, then they kicked the horses into a canter and rode back to the hut. While Bonnie saddled the horses, Sam rang her father again. That's Soggy's car, said Bill when Sam told him the number. I'm leaving Currawong Creek now. I know that the track that leads out to Skull Rock, and I'll drive out there to make sure I don't miss them. His voice rose. But I want you and Bonnie away from there. Do you hear me, Sam? Don't mess around. Just get going. The girls were ready in record time, scared now. I'm taking these too. Bonnie shoved the torch and rope into a saddlebag. It's evidence. They trotted away from the hut and it felt good coming onto the wide expanse of the beach where nobody could sneak up on them. The sea was different today, rough and noisy. They saw the tie marks immediately. They couldn't miss them. A big curve where the car had turned around, then straight into the sea where the boat had been unloaded. Bonnie followed the tracks until Tex danced away from the waves. More evidence, Sam, she yelled above the waves. Sam looked out to sea, searching for a boat. She couldn't spot it, even though she peered like a hawk. The surf was boiling, and further out the waves glittered and danced. Maybe they're behind Skull Rock, she yelled to Bonnie. She shifted her focus to the rock and thought she saw something. Look, Bonnie, she pointed. Their boat must have sunk. 3 tiny figures were clinging to the base of Skull Rock. I can hear them calling for help. I thought it was birds, said Bonnie, but it's screaming. I'll have to stop there. Bye-bye.